Well, good morning, everybody. So this is Vedanta series question and answer, and as usual, every Sunday. So we begin with our usual peace prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditam Astoma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So, question and answer. Anybody have a question? Well, while you're thinking about it, there was one question that arose by email to me. So the background to the question is like this. Direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Abhedananda, wrote a beautiful hymn in Sanskrit. And it is a hymn that is actually entitled Sri Sarada Devi Strotram. And we sing it more or less we certainly sing it every Sunday evening at the evening vespers. And he highlighted one particular verse. And he asked a question about it. The verse would go like this. Prasida mata vinaya che nityam bhava snehaviti suteshu rameka bindum chiradogta chite vishinchatitam kuruna sushantam. So the English translation of this, and the questioner was making a French translation, but binding our mind to thee with the bonds of thy love, you transmute our very vices into virtues. Compassionate as thou art, without any consideration of merit, thou dost, lo, take even unworthy ones into thy lap. And his question was like this. So, transmuting our very vices into virtues, what does this mean? And then he also quoted from a previous talk I had given, using an example, that a flower grows in the midst of non-flower material. You get the most beautiful rose flower, where the seed comes out of compost, manure. And in relation to that, I always tell a story. There's no doubt you've heard multiple times before, but it's worth repeating. It's a funny story. And when I start telling it, you'll probably be able to complete it for me. So there was once a farmer who had to get his water from a neighboring land, or through a neighboring land. He had to travel to a river and collect the water. He had to do this laboriously on a daily basis. And as he was going through his neighbor's land, his neighbor was a little resentful and said, well, this farmer will attack every day. I'll pour a bucket of cow dung on him, and I'll surprise him every day. I'll trap him, and I'll make sure that he doesn't know where this delivery is coming from. Sometimes I'll be hiding from behind a rock, and sometimes I'll be up a tree, and sometimes I'll be behind a bush, and I'll take different places on the path. He won't have any idea. And as soon as I do this, I'll run away so swiftly, he won't be able to catch me. And so this happened day after day for one whole year. At the end of the year, the farmer knocks on the neighbor's door, and the neighbor a little sheepishly answers the door. And he's surprised to see that the farmer has the most exquisite rose flower in his hand. And he said, I want to give this to you because you see all that cow dung you delivered to me. I managed to plant a rose garden, and the best flowers have come, and here's one such flower, but I'm giving it to you on one condition. And what is that? That this forthcoming year, please redouble the quota. And so it's not difficult to find that life is full of hardships. Actually, and I've said this many times before, when you look at life in general, it's quite a surprise to see what difficulties are there in front of us. And I just interrupt myself here because there's also another comment or a question, I think, in text. And it says, could you explain about the role of Guru? How should the Guru be followed by the disciples? And about this holy bond that is continuing through many lives. I'll try and integrate the two aspects of what I started off with, and also try to answer the question. So the example tells us that really life is more a bed of thorns rather than roses. And it doesn't take us much to discover that we are living in an environment where we have to, it seems, struggle hard until and unless we change our outlook. And this is where philosophy comes in. Now, many people think philosophy is an academic subject studied at universities, but that's not what we mean by philosophy. By philosophy, we have to resort to the original Greek, and that is a love of wisdom. So we have a love of wisdom. And this goes hand in hand with the definition of science, skio, to know. There's a difference between these two words and these two meanings. And there is also, to confuse things, a philosophy of science as well. And why is that? It's because when we come to scientific subjects such as questions about the universe, then with the paucity of data in front of us and with the unknowns, multiple unknowns, there has to be some kind of speculation about it. And now we're wandering into the area of metaphysics, a branch of philosophy. Some axiomatic assumptions about things, and they may or may not be true, because science's method is to test out everything. So that's one approach to life. That is purely on the material level. We take what is in front of us, we take the field in front of us, we analyze it, we try to make some sense of it. And the more we explore it, then the more inscrutable it becomes. And this inscrutability, the ancient people called Maya. Maya is a word that stands for the absolute incomprehensibility and contradictory nature and paradoxical nature of the universe itself. And so the whole issue of taking life as it is, we can take it in two ways. We can either take it in the material way, that is the scientific way, in an effort to know our environment and know how to deal with it. We are stuck because of the unknowns. Philosophy comes to the rescue because the kind of philosophy we're talking about is based on mystic experience. Mystic experience means, in order to answer the deepest questions of life, another method has to be used, what we might call intuition, introspection, a mystic journey, going into the depths of our soul. And there, based on a certain logic, unpeeling layers after layers after layers of what we have deemed to be our reality and our experience, and then finally discovering who we are. And this self-discovery is then applied to the whole of the universe, to the whole of existence, because that will be our experience when we find it. And then how do we do that? How do we deal with the so-called day-to-day life? It's always a question that arises. Yes, all this philosophy is all very well, but how do you deal with an awkward person at work? How do you deal with a bill that suddenly arises and leaves a hollow in my bank account? How do I deal with domestic quarrels? How do I deal with awkward family members? How do I deal with health issues? How do I deal with death? How do I deal with those vicissitudes? How do I deal with an ailing economy? How do I deal with natural disasters? We can go on and on and on because there's a whole list of things in front of us. But all of these questions ignore a few fundamental things, realistic things. These problems we won't have for very long. In the grand scheme of things, let us say, 13, 14 billion years, according to cosmology models. In the grand scheme of things, we are new arrivals on the planet Earth, and we're also new arrivals in our solar system. New arrivals means about 5 billion years old, and of that, man is just a recent sentence in the whole essay of the history of the Earth. And certainly, as we speak now, let us say in 100 years' time, we won't be here to discuss it. And let us say that in some cases, it's 50 years, and in some cases, it's 20 years. And in some cases, it's unpredictable because it may happen tomorrow. And people don't like to face that or discuss that. They sidetrack themselves about it. And so hiding the facts will not help us. Facing the facts will help us, and facing it in such a way that we get some real answers and real value. And this is equivalent to transforming all the environment that we have that seems to be unsuitable for growth and using it to transform ourselves. In the language of this verse that I have just mentioned, it is transmuting. But you see, the context is like this. Binding our mind to thee, that's how it starts. Beautiful passage. If we bind our minds to that personal representation of the highest principle that we know of, the highest ideal, that which we love the most, because it is a constant supply, a constant source of, let us say, maternal grace that is always flowing. With the bonds of thy love, love has a bondage within it, which can enslave or can liberate. An unselfish love will liberate. A selfish love will bind you. And the divine love, if we say God is love, and we equate it to maternal love, then there's a bond which cannot be broken. It is always there. To have faith in that bond is a tremendous thing. It transforms our life. And thou dost transmute our very vices into virtues, because all the energy that we have that acts against us, for example, worry, anxiety, it's not getting us anywhere. It's giving us blood pressure and health difficulties. All that anxiety, all that energy can be transformed and be a transformer, because energy is energy, whether it's diverted toward virtue or vice. And so transforming what I often call, in modern psychological language, demons into diamonds. Psychologically, in our depths of our subconscious mind, we have shadowy demons that we don't like to face. These are emphasized in such programs as the Enneagram that I give. You'll find that every single one of the personality types will have some demon to face, as it were. And when faced, we realize it's not a demon at all. There's an exercise that I often do, telling you about a dark forest and going through the dark forest and facing some monster which is there. And as soon as we question the monster, face the monster in a kindly way, we find it transforms into something that is useful and helpful for us. And the example of the flower is one such thing. that no matter what smelly stuff is there in the universe, no matter what all the thorns are that present themselves, we are equipped to skillfully and artfully tune the mind to the glory of the divine self, what devout worshippers call God. And that art is called yoga. So that the practical portion of this philosophy is called yoga, and we can easily transform these vices into virtues. For example, in Ramakrishna's language, if you're angry, be angry that God has not revealed himself or herself. If you are jealous, be jealous of those great saints that have shown the way, that expose themselves as the very embodiment of light and goodness and purity and knowledge. And then who are these that reflect this? Who are these competent teachers that show the way? Who are these people who are able to transform darkness into light? And the word for this, of course, is guru, two kind of syllables that emphasize and help us visualize this transformation from darkness to light, from death to immortality. These gurus show the way because the guru, and I come back to the question, explain the role of the guru. Well, the role of the guru is to be an open channel for divine grace to flow. That is the role of the guru. And now here I'll use Sri Ramakrishna's example. The guru is like a matchmaker, saying to the devotee, look here, my child, here is your chosen ideal that is not only the way, but the goal. And here is how you as an individual can get there, knowing that we are all constitutionally different. So a different formula, a different method will be used for each individual person. So it is a channel, it is a way. And so the guru, as I've said many times before, is like a faucet. The faucet alone has no merit. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. But when it's connected, when the guru's mind is attuned to the glory of the self, and through practice that is a natural condition, then the guru acts as a faucet at the end of a long pipeline that represents a lineage. And the lineage is just like a pipeline that assists channeling divine grace to flow. And it is connected to an infinite reserve, like a reservoir. And this image is a very useful image to have of the gurus, the role of the guru. But there's also a role of the student. It's no good having a guru without a recipient that is prepared to accept the grace and not present obstacles. And so how should the guru be followed by the disciples? There are 4 conditions for disciples laid out in scripture. This is that the disciple will have to cultivate, or the student is a preferable term, will have to cultivate discernment constantly. What does that mean? It means that have to constantly value the world in its correct context. If you value the world in its correct context, all you'll see is the divine. That's all you'll see. You'll only see the light of the divine. Automatically, a person becomes positive. And secondly, vairagya, renunciation. It means that when we value the world in a certain way, we don't become attached to it. And then there is the 6 treasures which are there. We have to cultivate faith. We have to cultivate endurance or forbearance. We have to cultivate purity of mind. We have to cultivate concentration. We have to cultivate persistence. We have to cultivate meditation. So all of these things have to be cultivated. We have to cultivate a sense of contentment or thankfulness. These are 6 treasures which are there. But above all, the 4th requirement is a desire, a thirst for freedom, or a thirst for the devout worshipper to realize the goal and the way, encapsulated in the one term, Ishtadevata, chosen ideal. So there are matching ways, and what it means is, of course, not everybody will follow the way. When a competent teacher gives a diksha, that is, opens the way, the energetic way for freedom, then the student will have to make sure that the obstacles are less and less and less by practice. And practice means following the directions of the teacher. And the directions of the teacher may at some times feel a little strange. And yet, these directions, if they're followed, will assist in removing the obstacles. And so, when we say faith, it means faith primarily in yourself. If you were to say what is the key quality every student or disciple will have to cultivate, it is this faith in themselves. Because at root, what we call themselves, what we call yourself, is infinite, is all-powerful. It is the supreme thinker, it is the supreme knower, it is the supreme witness. It is that which is the infinite invisible. And this we have to assert against our so-called everyday perception that we are so-and-so, these are our problems, these are the people who are oppressing us, this is the day-to-day struggles that we have, this is the accumulation of difficulties that we have. See, every time these things are asserted, every time people assert their weakness becomes entrenched and endorsed. It becomes thicker, if you will. And so how do we deal with that? We deal with that by cultivating the opposite virtues. We cultivate strength and truth and goodness and love and harmony and charity and compassion and all of these things, and thankfulness, all of these things. And we have to do it constantly because the world is present to us constantly. And our unconscious reactions built up over this life and over previous lives is there in the unconscious mind. And we cannot transform it directly. We have to do it through the conscious mind, through conscious effort. And the Guru is there to assist in that. And then there's another question here. I have a related question. Very good. What evidence do we have in the scriptures that we pass through multiple lives and what bonds are preserved across these lives? We just have to go then to a couple of things. Firstly, the Kathopanishad will tell us. The Kathopanishad will tell us that it is like a creature, let us say a chameleon, that reaches out for the next branch and lets go of the other one. So there are many passages in the Kathopanishad. And then the Bhagavad Gita uses this argument. It tells us that we have many lives. It tells us it is like clothing that we use. You can take off and take on. So these are the evidences. But we don't really need scriptural evidence for this. And the reason why I say that is, let us use our common sense about it. But you see, in a dialogue in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita with Krishna and Arjuna, it is quite clear, having told Arjuna about the fundamental nature of themselves, tells, you see, you have been mourning for those who shouldn't be mourned for. Now, Arjuna is about to kill others in a righteous war, the most unpleasant task. This is why when capital punishment is there and there's a hangman, for example, the hangman himself is hooded. Nobody wants to know, or he doesn't want anybody to know who he was. The axeman is hidden. because it's an unpleasant task. And so it says, Ashochan avasochastam prajnavadamscha vasase. You see, you are mourning for those who should not be mourned for. And yet, you seem to speak the truth in wanting to avoid life and the task and what we typically call reality. But then the important thing goes on. It's not that you have ever or never existed. You have always existed. And everybody in front, all these people in front of you, it's not that they have never existed, nor is it that we shall cease to exist in the future. And then dehinosmin yata dehe, as our childhood, youth, and old age in this body to the embodied soul, so also is the attaining of another body. Calm souls are not deluded thereat. There's a single statement which tells us we have another body after this one. So let's repeat it. Dehinosmin yata dehe kumaram yonam jara tata dehantara prapti dirastatra na muhyati. As our childhood, youth, and old age in this body to the embodied soul, well, so also is the attaining of another body. Calm souls are not deluded thereby. If you think that death is the end, you are deluded. You can never imagine the body ever to be, or yourself, put it that way, in your understanding, you can say misunderstanding, but common understanding of the body-mind complex, and say that is I. Can you ever imagine this I to be in any way deceased, dead? Oh, I dreamt I was dead last night. Oh, I see. What happened? Yes, I saw myself on a slab. I was cold, like marble. Then the next question was, well, who was the witness of it? Who was seeing it? You see, it's impossible to get rid of the witness. And of course, in a dreamless sleep, when there's no division, when there's no spatial division or temporal division, no causal connections, there only a sense of peace takes place, then of course we have peace. And still there's a witness of it. So even when this happens, there is the passport self goes and takes on a new identity, let's say in a dream, and then that also goes on. And there's a kind of amorphous peace, a kind of equilibrium, a kind of state of potentiality that is ready to launch back into a dream and back into a waking world. And there is a constant witness of it all. And so my standard answer to a question, do I believe in rebirth or reincarnation, is no, I don't believe in this incarnation. Why would I believe in another one? But then I have to answer the question as well, of course, from a different point of view. But here's the beauty about philosophy. We can take three possible views of every subject. And it's not that an either-or view should be taken. It's like a toolbox that we have to apply to different subjects. And the final all-purpose tool that we have is called non-dualism, where there are no two, where the question of death doesn't arise, the question of life doesn't arise, the question of change doesn't arise, the question of spatial division does not arise, the question of causation does not arise. And the practical aspect of this will be to see that infinite invisible in everything and everyone. And that practice is also called viveka, discernment. When we see that every body and every person and everything that we commonly classify as life, and even the things which are static objects, are infused with atomic life, at least that much we have to acknowledge. And when we see that, we have to trace the source of that life, and we find it is the life cure. and the life giver is there standing without change, doesn't come, doesn't go, is always there, always remains there. It is only our notion of these differences and changes that makes it appear as it appears. So the notions of heat and cold, these pairs of opposites, pain and pleasure, these are all born of the contact with the senses and their objects. And they have a beginning and they have an end. They're impermanent. They're impermanent in their very nature is impermanence. And therefore, why would we assume that the body, that is an aggregate, will not disintegrate? It will, of course. Death is a natural thing as birth. But what happens in between can be this transformation from virtue to vice, can be this transformation from this manure of life into these glorious rose flowers that I gave you the example. The unreal never is. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Ubhaya ipi dusto ntas tano yastata dashibihi. You see, the unreal never is, but what is classified as what is unreal? The thing that changes, something that has parts, something that comes and goes, is unreal in the sense that it is impermanent. What we call reality is only a relative reality, relative to the sense organs, relative to our interpretation, relative to the queen bee of all the senses, namely the mind. And so people possessed of the knowledge of truth, they know of these things. That by which all this is pervaded, that know for certain to be indestructible. This is all part of the Bhagavad Gita, right up front in the second chapter. None has the power to destroy what is unchangeable. It always remains constant. And of this indwelling self, antavantu ime deha, nitya shota shariranaha, anashino prame yasya tasmadyo yasya bharata. Of this indwelling self, the ever-changeless, the indestructible, the thing that has no limits whatsoever. These bodies are said to have an end, no doubt. Therefore, we have to take our role and we have to assert ourselves against the delusive aspect of the world. So, what is this rebirth? Well, the jayate mrayate va kadachin, this is never born. It never dies. It's not that not having been, it again comes into being. No, it's unborn, it's changeless, it's ever itself. It's not done away with, it's not slain, and nor does it slay. It has no activity within itself. So these things we have to take logically as well as seriously. And we find then echoes in many of the Upanishads. The Katha Upanishad will tell us the same kind of thing. And all of the Upanishads will be dealing with the question of immortality. So bodies go. Now, an interesting passage is there, contained not only the Katha Upanishad, but also the Bhagavad Gita. And that is to view the body as a kind of city of God. And viewed in this way, we can easily see that bodies can be replaced. Now, if it is our purpose, this is the logical side of it. If it is our purpose to discover our own inherent freedom, or what devout worshippers call God, a vision of God, if this is our sole purpose in life, our long-term purpose, many short-term purposes are also there, of course, but long-term purpose, if this is what is behind this unfolding of our real nature, if our real purpose is to unfold the temporal nature until we discover the sum total, the absolute totality of pure existence, which is this infinite, invisible, then, of course, it means there that it will never stop. And if we value this life as a kind of dream world that goes away, this waking world disappears. This is one of the wonderful conclusive arguments in the Vedanta philosophy, that when this waking experience goes away and dream comes on, a different scenario, and we only review it as, oh, just a dream from the waking state. During the dream, it's an entirely real state with all the characteristics of the waking state, including time and motion and space and events. And we can also have a memory about it. Then this world is a very subtle world, and its ruler is there. We call this Hiranyagarbha cosmic mind. It comes from a mind. Universally, it comes from a cosmic mind. This world is God's dream. And when God wakes up, the dream is gone. And when God goes into a condition, a mental condition of potentiality, if you will, prakriti, resting its own nature according to Sankhya's, then the whole world disappears. Poetically, we can say, when God closes his eyes, the world is gone. And when he opens them, the world is there. There's a beautiful part of the Markandeya story there contained in the Puranas, where Markandeya finds himself in this dark ocean, and he actually comes out of the mouth of Vishnu, the all-pervading, limitless entity, and into the dark waters, and then gets swallowed back again, and so on. There's a very wonderful story along these lines. So we have to learn to view things in a very different way. This is the art and skill of spirituality, is to be able to shift our attention at any given moment. I said 3 approaches are there. One approach is, Mother, Lord, you are there. Let me worship you externally. Let me worship you in the other person, in the other place, in the other circumstance, whether we value it as good or bad, whether we value it as painful or pleasurable or whatever it is. Let me see the divine there. Let me have eyes that see that only. Let me see beyond the fragments, but the fragments themselves let me see. This is seeing in everything. And once we are happy, once we've done that to the point of realization, to the point of something shifting internally within us, then we can see that there's a divine grace flowing through everything. The divine presence is flowing through everything, activating everything, making things move, making hands move and limbs move, making trees move, making wind move, making clouds move, making the earth move and rotate. When we see all this movement as an expression, a manifested unfoldment, a movement, a mobilizing effect, when we see that through everything, seeing the world as a kind of porous entity and divine grace flowing through it, always flowing through it, that's another perspective. And then when we have no doubt about it, that this world is nothing else except fragmented God, that's all it is. It is as it. That final conclusion, which is a final conviction, it comes out of intellectual philosophy and goes into actually the heart. And when that heart is felt that, you are here as all of this. So if we take the Bhagavad Gita as well and see all the glories, you can see that it is as everything. It doesn't say I'm in everything. The Lord puts it, I am as everything. I translated from various chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, divine glories. And it was adapted from 7, 9, 10, 15 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita that emphasizes this glorious view of the world. See, The taste in water, for example. Sri Krishna says, I am the taste in water. I am the radiance in the sun and moon. I am the syllable Om. I am the carried sound that goes through space. All the sound, I am that. Did we notice it? I am the strength in the human. I am the sweet fragrance in the earth. You know, when it rains, you can smell the earth. I'm the brilliance in fire. We can say I am the energy in electricity also. I'm the life in every single thing. I am the life. Not I am in it, I am the life. See? I'm the austerity in ascetics. When you see somebody who is self-disciplined, yes. I'm the eternal seed. I'm the eternal seed in everything. Thou art the eternal seed. I'm the intelligence in the intelligent. Whenever you have intelligence, you're all here using your thinking capacity and your intelligence. You're all listening and probably pondering and analyzing what I'm saying probably and evaluating it nicely. Yes, if there's intelligence and the intelligence in the intelligent and the splendid things that are splendid and the strength of the strong and the desire, the art of desire for harmony. If you have a feeling, I want peace, yes, I'm that. And the origin of nature's force. I'm the sacrifice and I'm the ritual both. When I light a lamp, when I light an incense, I'm the hand that does it. I'm the motion that does it. I'm the one to be known. I'm the purifying and all ancient words of truth, that's I am. I am the one great goal. As support, I'm the Lord, I'm the witness, I'm the abode, I'm the shelter, I'm the friend, I'm the beginning, I'm the end, I'm everything, you see. And it goes on in such a way that contemplating all these glories, we get a glimpse, a flavor of this divine in everything. We don't have to go very far. The whole of our environment is a form of this. I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, the Bible says. And all the countless beings, not just human beings. If you were to count out all the species in the world, you can hardly count out all the bacteria. And although we have made a count, the count of atoms is beyond our comprehension. I'm all the senses in the body. I'm the art, the consciousness. I'm evident in every living being. And in the art of the science of the self, or the science of the self, I'm also that. So, of all the aquatic beings, see, I'm an eternal flow. So it goes on like this. I'm the illuminator of the world. I'm the sun, I'm the moon, I'm in the sun, I'm in the moon, I'm in fire. And I enter into the very earth and activate it from within. This is an echo also of the Vritaranyaka Upanishad. I'm the eternal, the internal mover and the internal supporter. This is the language that is being used. And the inner controller is the expression used. So how is it we don't see it? How is it we only bring these things out during contemplation? Well, we do it by the aid of teacher, we do it by the aid of scripture, we do it by the aid of our own observation, we do it by the internal intuition that we have that gives us faith in ourselves. We do it by this careful observation and corresponding inner upliftment and feeling in it. And we know when we view scenes of beauty, how it happens. So there are many, many personal examples that you have and that I have, that we all have, that we can bring out. Then how is it then that our minds get disturbed? It's because we lost the practice of doing this. We have to cultivate the art of remembrance of all of this that comes from proper observation, the art of uplifting our mood constantly so that our mood is always perpetually uplifted and joyous and joyful. It's not that our mood will not go down, yes, but we know how to raise it up again. It's like a thermostat in a house. When the temperature goes down, you arrange it so it goes up again. You set the temperature higher. But you constantly are looking out, what is the temperature, you see, and making things comfortable and joyful yourself. It's not that the world is against you, because the final conclusion will say, and the Bhagavad Gita will tell us a beautiful passage, the 11th chapter of the Bhagavatam. It will tell us, see, Krishna is teaching Uddhava, his disciple, and he's saying, you see, this drama, this play is a play on myself. See, it's not a cruel joke on you, because I'm the only thing which is there. I am the stage, I'm the drama, I'm the producer, I'm the director, I'm the parts that are being played. There's nothing else except me. So that cultivation, that habit has to be cultivated. Habit of thinking has to be constantly uploaded, upgraded, and constantly fill the mind with all these beautiful ideas and a thinking that immediately neutralizes depression, immediately neutralizes a view that somehow we are not quite right or have to be corrected or in some way defective. This is a wrong way of thinking. And there's another question here. This is wonderful that we have so many questions. Sri Ramakrishna, in one of his conversations, he said, it's not good to desire for realization. Instead, one should ask for devotion alone. Yes. Well, you see, supposing you ask for realization of what? And this is in the context, of course, of the devotee. So it is much better to ask for devotion. Now, what does devotion mean? We have examples in human relationships of devotion. A wife's devotion for the husband's devotion for the wife. If you take that same kind of devotion and steer it to that self within the wife, within the husband, say, this is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad conversation, Yajnavalkya with Maitreyi. This seeing why is the wife dear, why is the husband dear? Because of the presence of the self in that person. And so when we say devotion, it means all our activities are concentrated, are directed in this way. You see, realization will do away with that. You still have to have a useful life. So we have to mobilize the heart. Realization is, in a way, mobilization of the mind. And a mobilization of mind, heart, and hand, head, heart, and hand, has to be done. It has to be done continuously. You see, what realization of what? Realization, I sit there in a cave and ask for realization. Well, what happened then to all the people and circumstances around me? So we should ask for pure devotion. Now we should ask for other things also. So we should ask for devotion, pure love, pure love. We should also ask for inner wisdom. We should also ask for discernment. And we should also ask for detachment. These are the four central things we should always ask for.
Sorry, let me clarify this. Like one of your talk, in the beginning you said a disciple should have a desire for freedom. Like what is the freedom is nothing but realization, is it? So is it right to have a desire for freedom? It's quite contradictory. I don't know.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it is contradictory because you can't. Supposing you are a fully sighted person and you say, let me desire that I see. Well, you're already seeing. It's like people who walk around with their glasses on top of their head. Have you seen my glasses? I want to improve my eyesight. No, you have it already. It's not that we need freedom. Now, we can put it in the language like that because when we have a desire for freedom, and all of us have it automatically, we don't have to cultivate it, we already have it. When we have that desire for freedom, it also means I'm not free. Realization means, oh, I was free already. I was never bound. No point in desiring something that you already have. So when you say realization, yes, let me have realization, no doubt. How will I do that? I will do that through pure devotion. And it is this devotion that most people will require, because most people will be devout worshippers. And for this reason, it is a better desire or better thing to ask, beg, yearn for pure devotion. Now, I did mention that yearning for freedom has to be there, yes. So that yearning for freedom equates to yearning for a vision of God for devout worshippers. But you see, as we grow, we understand, well, I can start by yearning for freedom, but I also said we have to have applied discernment. And when we apply discernment, we realize, actually, I'm already free. So we have to deal with these things in stages. And realization means, oh, I'm already free. The desire for realization is a contradiction in terms, therefore. So thinking that we are bound, we want to be free. You can catch a bird in a trap. To do that, the bird had to enter into a certain gateway and doesn't notice that the gateway that allowed it to come in is also the one that allows it to go out. An elephant can be bound by a chain. And then after some time, the chain can be removed and the elephant still doesn't wander out of the perimeter that was controlled by the length of the chain. So what seems to restrict our freedom is the illusion that we are bound. And this illusion is produced by the boundaries of time and space. And once we have a revelation or a realization, an aha moment, I'm already free, then the yearning for freedom will go itself. So this is a means to an end. You shouldn't confuse the means and the end. What is the means? Devotion, pure devotion. We'll ask for pure devotion. We'll ask for a loving heart. We'll ask for all our energies to be diverted in a different way by understanding that the Lord that we are seeking, the ultimate principle that we are seeking, is already right in front of your eyes, is operating through your eyes, and as your eyes also. In, through, as, and beyond is a systematic method. Of course, good teachers will take you step by step. They'll assume your bound position. They won't deny it. It's no good telling a person, well, I'm sorry you banged your head on a wall, but unfortunately there's no wall, it's just an illusion. No point in saying that to a person. There's no point in teaching a small child at kindergarten, if you want to really understand mathematics, I'm going to teach you all calculus. Child won't understand it. They'll barely understand 1 orange and 1 orange makes 2 oranges. So step by step, we're all children, and we have to be guided systematically, step by step. And with each step, the obstacle, as it were, or the illusion at that moment gets lifted. And then the next layer, and then the next layer, and the next layer. So.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, I think when We have 2 minutes to go, I think, although we did start a little late. So I'm happy to take any other questions.
Swamiji,
Yes.
Swamiji, I had this question of this bond between the guru and the disciple over lives. You had mentioned it once. Like how does this journey continues? Swamiji, just curious if you could add a few words on that.
Yes, but you see, it's your journey. So it's not good for the guru to be bound forever. You know, Vivekananda is one of his great statements was that the guru should not hang around for too long. In other words, you see, it's like the parents, you see. A 40-year-old man should not still probably be living at home and fed at home. It happens, of course, in many places, and Ireland is one of those places. So we call it cutting the apron strings at some stage, right? So you can imagine somebody now in the darkness of night with a lantern or with a torch saying, "Come on, my child, this is the way." And then at some point or other, handing the torch and say, "Now find your own way. You have all the equipment and you're close to your destiny." So, but you see, the guru will always be there with you. And the guru's desire is not for freedom. The guru's desire is, may you get the freedom. May you realize your freedom. Let me revalue this statement in the light of what I've just said. You please realize your own freedom first. I realize my freedom, but I still would like to be bound because I have to take you by the hand. And once you are there at the gate, as it were, you please enter, and I'm going back. And Ramakrishna gives a wonderful example of that. There's a great deal of jollity and wonderful sounds going on behind a wall. And friends go to explore this. And the first person finds a ladder and looks over the wall and sees such delightful things going on. And immediately gets attracted toward that and sees this blissful environment and goes over. But the second person goes over, peeps, and says, "Well, if I go over, there's nobody to come back and tell the others what's going on." So the guru is a very polite person, opens the door for you and says, "Here, my child, please go first. Please go first. I'll go last. You go first, please." That's the kind of thing.
Thanks, Swamiji. I still have one question I'll ask you offline, Swamiji. It's
yes, okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, see, there's a wonderful statement in the Kathopanishad. Isha sarveshu bhuteshu gutotma na prakashati. The self, though hidden in all beings, doesn't shine forth, but can be seen by those subtle seers. And when that is seen, this is called a kind of realization. Realization means I see. That's really what it is. Through their sharp and subtle intelligence, they see it. Direct perception through the direct sense. Now you see, so the role of the guru is as a kind of matchmaker. The role of the guru is to give light to the person, sufficient for the person to use their own light until they realize that their own mind is the guru. And at that point, the human guru becomes an irrelevancy. But as long as we have a sense of embodiment, then it's necessary for the guru to guide you on an individual level, because we all have our individual tastes and temperaments, and to guide the person in the most suitable way, which may change as time goes on, because growth is not a static thing. And so it is necessary to keep close to the Guru and to bring all the difficulties and obstacles there. But the Guru, don't forget, is praying for you all the time. The Guru is close to you. The Guru is understanding you always. And there will always be those who don't practice. And so the person who has enough love and charity for the disciple, operating out of pure love, will try to do what they can for the person, even though the person may not be practicing. Out of love for the Guru, the same thing as out of love for God, as out of love for an open channel that is presenting itself by divine design and dispensation, then that person should do as much as they possibly can. Because you see, we don't have unlimited chances in this life. Now, overall, we have unlimited chances, but you'd surely want to avoid any delaying factor. Now, if you really want the glory of the Guru, you see, Shankaracharya gives us the Guru Stotram. The Guru Stotram is recited by many of the ashrams. And of course, it always begins, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, like that. So what is that Guru? Guru is actually Brahma, Vishnu, Lord Shiva, in a kind of disguise. The Guru is truly the supreme Brahman. But you have to understand it in the light of this illustration I gave, of this reservoir, eternal reservoir which is there. And so, naturally, salutations to the Guru is necessary. Before you do your japa, that is what you should be doing. So, Akanda Mandala Karam, like that, salutations to the Guru has made it possible to realize that one. Without the Guru, the possibility is not there. And so, it is not by accident that the Guru comes to you and you come to the Guru. It is by a divine design that it happened. It is there's nothing accidental about it. There's a divine kind of destiny. So it goes on like that, verse after verse after verse. The jewel of the Vedanta, and so it goes on like that. If you want a real heartfelt understanding of the answer to your question, then every day recite the Guru Stotram.
Swamiji, yeah, my question was was curious about this designed destiny. Instead, I said it's a journey. But
yes. Well, you see, the whole world runs on causation. And that's another way of saying that the divine is unfolding in a certain specific way, and it's come out as a you and come out as somebody else. And like that, it has come out as different arrangements, different rhythms, different patterns, but it's all there for the sake of harmony. And so every person will have their divine destiny, but overall, the whole universe, indeed every atom, is moving towards its own sense of freedom. We can't avoid it. And even an insect will discover it, over eons of time possibly. But we're all moving. The whole thing is moving in this direction. The whole thing is evolving or unfolding to understand and realize its own divine glory. And this may happen universal eons after eons after eons, everything going back into its sense of potentiality and coming out again with a kind of motive thrust, a desire, yes. So if we talk about desire, yes, the Supreme Creator has a desire, we want to put in that language, to express itself as the universe, express itself as a drama. Only we take it as a tragedy, of course. That's our curiosity. Our interpretation is tragedy. Sit where God sits and see it'll be very, very different. Meditation is an opportunity to sit where God sits and beam from there and understand that God made the world and so that it was good. So you have a divine design because you have certain unique talents and abilities that are unique to you, and everybody has this uniqueness within them, and it's expressed physically as an individual arrangement, architectural plan, an arrangement of DNA. And expressing that DNA is our individual purpose. But overall, it's driving us toward the fulfillment of our central purpose, which is to know our own identity, our own authentic and eternal self.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. It was really good to hear about Guru. Actually, today is, Jagat Guru Renukacharya's happy birthday. So it's really good to hear about Guru. So it's a wonderful divine moment. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace be unto all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.